right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our QuickBooks Online weekly webinar. Today we are going to be talking about purchase orders. I'm Marjorie Adams. I'm the CEO of Fourlane, and I love to continue doing these webinars to not only poke around more. You don't get to poke around inside software that much unless somebody presents you a problem, right? And then you get to poke around in it. So we're going to be doing some poking around today. I'm going to dive right into products. That's where I like to spend most of my time. But just to give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about, where to enable purchase orders, looking at how items reflect the need to create purchase orders, entering bills, reviewing purchase orders that were partially received, and then reports. I'm going to do everything inside of the QuickBooks Online Advanced sample file. So again, if you just Google QuickBooks Online sample company file, you can find, they give you both an advanced option that doesn't have the magic reports and a non-advanced option, so you can follow along. Although when I logged in this morning, I saw this new look. Maybe other people have had this look rolled out before, but this is new to me. I haven't seen it in this sample file before, nor in my own personal demo account. So if it doesn't look like this on yours, that's why. But the rest of it's still the same, right? It's just a dashboard that they created. Dashboard. And added to the menu items. Okay, so let's first talk about where do we go to enable purchase orders. So what is a purchase order, right? What do we use purchase orders for? Purchase orders are places where we hold, right, what we have placed an order with a vendor for. That can be for services. That can be for inventory. But that's the purpose of a purchase order, right? It is not, there is a step in some software before purchase order called a request for purchase, right? RFP. And so that step before is, let's say somebody in the warehouse notices we're short on items. They send over to purchasing, hey, we're short on these items. I need you to please purchase these items. So they are submitting a request for purchase, right? Then the purchasing agent goes and reaches out to vendors, decides which vendor we are going to work with, and places an order with that vendor. That's the step that we're at with purchase order, okay? That's the purpose. As a business, it's great to put purchase orders in the system because they'll keep track of negotiated pricing so that if somebody in accounts payable is now inserted in when they get the bill, they're able to say, well, wait a second, the purchase order price said $20 per unit. Your bill says $25. We need to pause and figure out why there's a discrepancy, right? Okay. The purchases are our way, purchase orders are a way of keeping track of what we've ordered before we receive it, before we receive the bill. What have we ordered out there? Okay, so where do we go to enable this? In your account and settings, under expenses, right, which makes sense because we're talking about purchasing things, then we have the use purchase orders area, okay? Now in here, you can set up custom fields on purchase orders. There is not, you can put a default message on purchase orders, right? So maybe you say in here something like, reach out to, for any questions, contact accounts payable at fourlane.com or whatever. But there is not a template to modify in purchase orders. It's not one of the templates that we can modify. So that's the customization extent that we have right there. You can add custom fields though, just not templates yet. I say that and probably they'll add it next week. Who knows? They're doing things so frequently over there. Okay, so then let's go ahead in and look at our items, products, and services. Now, it's a little confusing here because I'm talking about items, right? And we were just in the expenses area. And expenses, they don't have the items there. The items, products, and services is under sales over here. So a little bit confusing there, or it can be a little bit confusing there. So, and I am very zoomed in so that you guys can see better, but I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. So a couple of things up top here, they do have low stock and they do have out of stock items, right? Now I have nothing showing here, and that's because if I come down to my inventory parts and I edit them, it only decides that you have low stock or out of stock, right, if you have a reorder point in here. So I'm going to say right now it's saying I have quantity on hand of this particular inventory part of 25. I'm going to say my reorder point is 30. Okay. Now when I say that, I come up here and it says we're at low stock. Now we don't have any out of stocks. We don't have any inventory parts in our system that are at a 0 quantity on hand, right? So that's why nothing's showing here. So this is a great area to use if you're trying to reorder on purchase orders, if you're trying to reorder inventory, okay? This is a great place to know. And if you saw in there, so I can click into my low stock here. If I click into my low stock here, it tells me how many I have on hand, 25. It's yellow, matching those colors, or orange, I don't know. It tells me my reorder point 30, right? And then also if you noticed in there, when I went to the edit screen, it also tells me right here my quantity on a PO. So if I had any on a PO right now, I would be able to see that quantity here too, right? So it kind of gives you a lot of information on this screen, which is important. Now, if you're ordering services, right, of course, there's not going to be a quantity on hand in the services area. If I go edit it in the services area, it's not going to say over here quantity on hand or how many on a purchase order, because that's just, you know, it's not a thing. Although it might be a thing for us to have to look and see like what purchase orders do we have open for services with vendors, but we'll look at reports in a minute. Okay. One thing to note, and of course on this screen, let me see. All right, I think it's just because I'm on a zoomed in screen, or they decided to make a change. I love when you're inside of, oh, here we go. Wait, hold on, that's why. All right, there we go. One thing to note, all the finicky parts. When I check this, I get batch actions, right? So I can check an item and I can have batch actions over here. One thing to note too, if you have not checked it, or if you just click on like low stock quantities, that batch action is not there, right? So how I just got a little bit lost in my navigation. It's hard when you have had the things where it's like, oh, that's literally gone, versus sometimes you're like, am I supposed to do something to get that button to show up? So just be aware that if you're looking at low stock, you know, and you're saying like, why do I not have batch actions over there? You have to check mark the box first, okay? So by check marking the box, one of the options that we have over here is we have reorder. It doesn't say create purchase order, right, which would make it a little bit more easy to follow, but we have the option to reorder these products. So I'm going to go ahead and click reorder, and this will take us forward into our purchase order screen, which is awesome. This is exactly what we would expect, right? Take us right, we're going to reorder to our purchase screen. On the purchase order itself, the first thing you're going to choose is who's the vendor. I don't really care in this case who the vendor is, because that's not the point of the exercise. When I come down below here, it pre-fills in for me what items which items I had chosen on the previous screen, which is great. This is a wonderful way to do that. Now, we don't have preferred vendors or anything like that. So if I ordered from Fountain Pump, you know, I ordered Fountain Pump from Bob's Burger Joint and I ordered Rock Fountain from somebody else, it's just going to throw whatever I chose on that previous screen onto the purchase order itself. So one thing that you can do though, right, is that when you edit your items, you do have a preferred vendor down here. So I can choose Bob's Burger Joint. And then when you filter through your items, you would be able to Oh, it's not here, it's on the report. Then when we go to the report, I'll show you how we can filter through and look at just what are the parts we need to order from each vendor, right? But from this screen, it's not going to tell you which parts you can order from which vendor, okay? All right, so I'm going to go in and order these parts so that we can batch action reorder. Again, sometimes I get lost because I'm looking for batch action create purchase order, but it's just reorder. Then I come down below here. Now notice when I click on the quantity screen, and it is a little finicky. If I hover over it, it tells me quantity on hand. If I click onto it and it edits, it's not there. If I click again, it'll tell me. So on this one, it gives me a little pop-up and tells me quantity on hand is 25, and it gives me the low, right? We're low because our reorder point is 30. Now, as with anything in QuickBooks, I can do some math in this. So I can just do the math of 30 minus 25. How many do I need to order? Now, reorder point is saying when it hits 30, trigger that I need to reorder. So I'd actually have to take it to 31, right? Minus 25. Okay. Now that gets me just above my reorder point. We don't have a way to say, like, once I get below 30, bring me back up to 100. There are some ways to take notes on items and stuff like that where you can keep track of that stuff. But I'm just going to say I'm going to order 100 of these. Okay. And then down below here, now this one doesn't have a reorder point. So it's just going to tell me how many I have on hand. I'm going to order 3 of these. Actually, I'm going to do a round number. It's easier to track when we move forward if I do a nice round number. So then I'm going to go ahead and say save. Okay, so this purchase order is saved from Bob's Burger Joint. Awesome. Now when I go look at the item, if I go look at this pump now, right, it says I have 25 quantity on hand, 30 is my reorder point. I have 100 on POs. So that's my way of knowing I don't need to order more of this product. Awesome. Okay, so now we come in and we get a bill. Right, I get a bill. The bill's from Bob's Burger Joint. What? Right away, it's going to pop up and tell me I have an open purchase order here over the screen, on the side of the screen, and I can add to the bill from this purchase order. And it default fills in for me how many were on, what was the price, the rate per. So again, at this point, if we got the bill and the bill said it was $150 for each rock fountain, that would be our stopping place and our time to go back to the vendor and say, wait a second, or go back to our purchasing agent and say, wait a second, why is there a discrepancy? Okay. All right. Now notice this says quantity on purchase order 10. I haven't saved this transaction yet. Quantity on hand 2, right? So now when I hover over this here, quantity on hand 25, reorder point 30, quantity purchase order 100. And it would show me the same thing on the purchase order as well. So again, if I was going in to order this part and I missed it on the item ordering screen or on the item screen, this would be my chance to say, wait a second, oh, I already have some on purchase order. I don't need to put more on another purchase order. Okay. We're going to pretend like we received half of this order. So I'm going to put in 50 and 5 and say save. All right, so now it brought that across. Now when I go over to my purchase order, because it is linked, on the purchase order itself, it is going to show how many we received, right? And this is not a field I can edit, because it's a system-generated field. How many have I received is noted here, and it's not closed out. Now, if at this point we decided we are not going to receive any more, the company said, you know what, these fountain pumps, they are end of life, EOL, and we only had the 50 that we sent to you, there is no more to be had, okay? So we don't want this purchase order sitting out here as outstanding forever. We would come in and mark it as closed. Okay, so that's a purchase order is a non-posting transaction. It has no financial effect on the books, but it's an informational thing. So if I post this and I say save, right, that this is now closed, when I go in to enter a bill to Bob's Burger Joint, right, it's not going to tell me that I have more, well, on a purchase order. It's not going to tell me I have more on a purchase order, but look, it is telling me to receive those 50. So that's cool. I don't know what it threw on here. It threw on 5 and 5. I'm not sure. Sometimes with my sample files, it go a little crazy. But now when I hover over it, right, the quantity on purchase order is showing as 0. Quantity on purchase order is showing as 0. That's what I wanted to get at. But it still is allowing me to receive those extra 50. Actually, I'm not sure what it's doing. The alignment is all off here, right? This must be quantity. Yep, rate, amount. I'm not sure. So I'd have to get rid of now on this bill because we're not going to receive those, right? And then I'd have to get rid of the 5 because we already received those 5, and now this is just receiving the extra 5. Okay. So closing out, why we would want to go close it out is because when I have this pop-up, when I go to enter a bill for Bob's Burger Joints, if you don't want to have a pop-up over here that says, hey, you have all these open purchase orders for Bob's Burger Joints, then you have to make sure to close them out or receive fully against that purchase order. No, let me just go ahead and save. Okay, so now that we've received fully against that purchase order, when I come in here, right, they are both marked as closed. The one I marked manually as closed that had 100 and we received 50, but then the system also marked as closed the one we have 10 and we received 10 automatically, okay? And when I hover over any of the quantity fields, it shows that I have none on a purchase order anymore. And now I have 12 on hand, right? And then again, when I come in and I go and enter a bill to Bob's Burger Joint, there is no pop-up now. So when you're using these purchase orders, you want to make sure to keep it super clean and get those closed out if they need to be closed out. Otherwise, you're going to get all these things that are telling you what you're supposed to be doing, even if it's not valid. Okay. All right. So we went into how to do purchase orders on on inventory parts. If you were to do a purchase order, let me go in here and create a purchase order. If we were to do a purchase order on services, you can do it straight to a general ledger account, but I don't recommend doing that. It's always better to use items. So if you were to come in here and the reason you want to use items is because it's just an extra level of tracking, right? So if you throw everything to direct costs versus throwing it to, or everything to, indirect labor or direct labor, you won't be able to see, is this, are these things that are, are these things that I can purchase, or like if you buy landscaping services versus if you're buying, design services, right? You won't be able to break that down. And it's better to be able to break it down. It's just an extra level for reporting. If you guys have seen any of my videos on reporting, right? Anytime you can use an extra level, we don't want to go straight to GL account. We want to be able to use an item because then we're going to be able to get more detailed reporting. Where do we have all those direct costs going? Oh, it's all in landscaping. We need to look at why we have so much landscaping direct costs when our revenues don't, add up to that, or there's not the same margin. So using items is a big deal. Okay, so then we'll talk about reporting. When I come in here to my reports, now again, in this QuickBooks Online Advanced, they don't have the magic reports that we've talked about before, the Magic Wand reports, so that high level of reporting that you can do. But you can come over here to find report by name, and there are not off the shelf a lot of purchase order reports. So we have our open purchase order list, and so we have just one purchase order open in here. This is by vendor, and you can group by vendor, you can group by month, day, week. The reason you might want to group by month or day is like, what are we expecting to come in, right? When are we expecting things to come in maybe in the future? Okay. From this report, of course, it's just showing you what is open. Why would it be important to know what is open with vendors? This could affect cash flow, right? So, I have $100,000 in the bank, I have $50,000 in accounts payable, and I have $80,000 open in purchase orders. So you could use it as triggers towards accounts payable and cash flow. So open purchase order report, there is not a ton of customization when it comes to this report. So you can filter by vendor. If you have a lot of open ones, you can filter by created date, last modified date. I don't know about check printed. I'm not quite sure what that means, why we would filter by that. I didn't test it to see how that would affect it. We can filter by memo, so that's important to note. So if you do want to put information in the memo field on purchase orders, that would be a way you can filter it down. So maybe like if you have multiple purchasing agents, you tell them to put their name in the memo. Or if you have custom fields as well. We have the ship via field. The field is so funny. Intuit really likes those ship via fields. Okay. We can customize the column slightly and add in some additional things like the vendor message, the delivery address. Okay. So pretty basic when it comes to purchase order list by vendor. The other report that we have when it comes to purchase orders is open purchase order detail. Oh, let me do this for all dates. Oh, run. Sorry. I was like, how did I have an open purchase order on the other one and not on this one? I always have to be smarter than QuickBooks. So this has it totaling, right, by product and service instead. So you can see how many you have open for rock fountains, how many you have open for in different areas. Okay. So pretty basic when it comes to open purchase order detail. Let me see. We talked about partially received. We talked about entering bills. Okay. I think that that's all that I have around purchase orders today. If you guys have any questions for me, please definitely put them in the chat. I'm going to give you guys back a little bit of time today. Things that are coming up, we're still going to be talking about the accounts receivable workflows and task management, which now that we have that new dashboard might be helpful. Job profitability, work in process, some more advanced reporting things. I want to take a break from reporting for a bit, and definitely let me know if there's more things that you guys want to learn. See you all next week. Thanks, guys.